Hey folks, I'm Stu. I'm here to chat a little bit about MTD. And I'm not going to be speaking about compliance. If you want to know about how the quarters are going to work and all the lovely regulation, then HMRC can be your guides there. I'm going to chat a little bit about strategy and about how this element is going to change our industry, especially with our smaller clients, and how to use that as an opportunity. I think Johan covered it at the start of the day to say that for those that are like digitally innovative and at the crest of the wave, MTD is an opportunity. But first of all, I think it's worth saying that there's an elephant in the room. I am definitely that elephant, not just the holiday weight. But I am not an accountant or bookkeeper in practice. I work as a vendor, so I'm a product manager at FreeAgent. So what that means is my job is spent speaking to practices day in, day out, and your clients, to best understand all your business problems and wrap that around with compliance and then build beautiful software off the back of it with the help of some incredible engineers and all the code that goes into that. But there is an asterisk, a little asterisk to me, that before I did this and before I was in this industry as a vendor, I was a small business owner and I was a really crappy client. And a lot of what I do now is basically like penance to say I'm really sorry on behalf of all crap clients to all you fantastic people in industry. But I have my qualifications now and I understand the differences. So on to MTD for income tax. Again, you're not going to get big diagrams with what the quarters look like or how to divide them up and do the legislation. It is going to be around clients, accountants, bookkeepers, and vendors working together to turn this opportunity into something really spectacular. So I've highlighted up here on the screen 5 evergreen challenges that we face in practice that are going to be amplified by the new income tax legislations. The first is adapting to new tech and the fact that people hate change. The second is about client education, increasing admin burden, cost of implementation, and keeping up with legislation. I'm not going to spend too long focusing on these problems. I think we probably all understand the problems in the room, but I'd like to spend quite a bit of time on the solutions to overcome them. So the first problem, adapting to new tech. Change is hard, and I find it quite interesting that we work in an industry where we love things to balance. Change makes that really difficult, both on the client side, but both everyone in practice and on a vendor side. We don't really like a lot of change either. So how can we get past that, especially within practice? I think the first solution we have here is about investing in your staff. I think a lot of people have kind of said that today, and there's a lot of discussion of that outside. But if you can invest in training in your staff on the MTD compliance software, it will reap dividends in the long run. Compliance, I guess, is the bare minimum of what you expect. But in terms of reducing errors and increasing efficiency, really investing in your staff is such a great way to counter this challenge. Second is about choosing user-friendly and scalable software. Now, for those of you that use FreeAgent, it might seem obvious that I'm standing up here saying something about user-friendly and scalable. Like, what we hear a lot, and I speak to practices all the time, and what I hear from all of you is, if you can have something that your clients can use for your accounting and bookkeeping that they love and they can do and it's right, then it's worth so much to you folks in the long term. You don't have like a real mess at the end of year. Like, it still happens, but on the whole, if you can find software that really suits the client and meets their needs, then that's going to pay dividends in the long run. And I'm not here to say X software or Y software is better than any other software, but there are specific things that software will do for a specific range of clients. So tailor your tech stack to that. I'm a big believer in that. The third is about working with us, working with vendors. We do so much. By me, I don't just mean FreeAgent. I mean all the people that are out there, your Xeros, your QuickBooks. There's so much output of material that you can do to utilize with us to better help you and your clients work. And that could be around MTD. If you go onto the FreeAgent website today, you'll get loads of resources if you want to give them to your clients to tell them about what's coming up, or give them to your staff if you want to educate them. There's also demos and support and tutorials and everything it says there on that slide. We love it when we work with practices. It's literally my job, and everyone inside of my company loves it when we can work together on these kind of things. So utilizing that material, I think, is a really great solution to this challenge. Second challenge, client education. Like, business is business. I was the same when I was a small business owner, that lousy client, as I said at the start of this talk. I cared about my business more than anything else. I didn't really have empathy for compliance. I didn't have the time to understand and learn about compliance. And I'm sure that's a challenge that the majority of you in this room face. So the first, again, is kind of leveraging what I said previously around the information that's out there, or creating your own if you want, to conduct client workshops, client experiences with those clients, bringing them together, networking with those clients. From the practices that I speak to in my day-to-day that do this kind of thing and work with their clients or group clients together and have experiences around education, the clients are happier, they get it, and the churn is way down compared to those practices that don't. The second is about advisory services, and this is every event you come to, every event I listen to, you always hear people saying we want to do more advisory. And I think the offering of advisory services is a really good way of helping you educate your clients on the things that you want to educate them on. And the last point here is about providing clear step-by-step instructions. When I was a small business owner, my accountants definitely told me things and said words I had no clue about, and it really put me off doing some things. I'm sure that resonates with some people here. And if you can break things down to the most fundamental basics to tell your clients the reasons why you want them to do things, it's not really about categorizing a bank transaction. It's really about seeing the impact that has on your self-assessment return when you do so. So working with them to learn these things is a really great way of educating your clients. An increase in admin burden. MTD IT is bringing increased admin. On the bare face of it, we're going from 1 tax return to 4 updates and then an end of year. So straight away, you're getting 4x the size of that. I think the first, and this is most passionate that I think about in my role at FreeAgent, is about automating workflows, especially with integrations. The fact that today, if you're cloud first or digital, that you can create a client of FreeAgent and that's automatically created for you in Engager. If you run payroll in Buddy, that pushes all the journals into FreeAgent automatically. If you want to do your AML and you've got a client of FreeAgent, Zama will pull out the P&L and balance sheet automatically for you. This world that we're opening up through interconnections and an ecosystem is so important for reducing the admin burden in practice. And I really encourage you all to embrace it. The second is about leveraging tech in those verticals, or jobs to be done, as we call them in product management. There's so many softwares we have today and in the market that can take these individual verticals and are innovating and disrupting. If we pick something like accounts receivables and receiving money on your invoices, and we've had legacy players for forever like Go Cardless and Stripe and PayPal, and even them still relatively new. But then you've got loads of new people in the market doing fun and fantastic new things. Adfins that are sponsoring this, and Mimos and Crescos. These are all attempts to take what we have, but leverage tech to do it even better. So this is constantly evolving. So if you haven't already gone and had a wee look around these stalls and really dived into what the new people are doing, I'm a big fan of a disruptor. And last is about structured client onboarding process. So I don't know how many of you spend a lot of time with other practices and discuss how you do things. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I'm practice agnostic, being a vendor. And I spend a lot of time speaking to practices about how they onboard their clients and what that means. And what I've learned is those that involve their client in the onboarding, especially giving them a little bit of an upskill into what compliance needs they are. Exactly like, it's not just about explaining a bank transaction, this is the impact on your tax return. You don't need to go too much further, but explaining that sort of thing. The clients are happier and their churn rates are way down. So involving your client in that onboarding, rather than it just being a push through like no value task, can pay dividends in the long run. The fourth of the kind of 5 challenges that MTD IT is going to bring is around cost. Probably the biggest, and it's not something we can get away from. Cost of the software, opportunity cost of not doing something else. And as it says there, the savings get turned into expenses. So what can we do about that cost? And I think the number one thing, and the thing I'm most passionate about this entire talk and in my role, is about comparing software together to find the options that meet the best needs of you and your practice. Now, I'm not just talking about something, I'm not up here to sell FreeAgent. There's loads of softwares that do this in really fantastic ways. But the perception that each software has in the market is probably wrong from the majority of everybody sat here and in the vendor space, you probably think you know FreeAgent based on a demo 3 years ago. But if you're a zero-only practice, when was the last time you spent an afternoon with QuickBooks seeing what they now do? Software moves so fast. And I can tell you as somebody who pushes out updates all the time and nobody sees them, that it's really difficult to get that perception change. So go and spend time with FreeAgent, spend time with Xero, go and see what they're doing that you don't know about, especially around the edges. I think a really nice example is FreeAgent about 3 or 4 years ago launched a tool called the Performance Benchmarking Report. And what that does is allows your clients to go into this report, and we know their industry, and we know their geography, and we know all their financial data, and we spin up a report for free that tells them all about their performance. How's your P&L against all your competitors in your area? What are the insights into your business compared to your industry? Like these kind of things, it's not core to the offering, but all the softwares provide these incredible value. So go and shop around. You probably will surprise yourselves. The second is not my area of expertise, but there's definitely some government resources out there to help with the smallest of businesses that kind of help to grow digital scheme. And lastly, about like spreading costs, so bundling costs. As I mentioned, a few softwares there that integrate together. You've got your Buddies, your FreeAgents, your Zamas, your Adfins, all this stuff that you can see today. Bundling that into an offer. There is maybe an asterisk to this point, though, with cost. What we will see, and we're already seeing, because we saw it last time MTD for IT was announced. It was a fun Christmas at FreeAgent when we cancelled all of that software development. Is that you'll see a lot of free licenses or £1 licenses that meet your needs for all the people that have MTD IT needs. I think be wary of how that scales up the tiers. If it's £1 a license, but they need to add 2 users and it jumps to 5, and then they need invoicing and jumps to 10, just be careful about that tiering in the industry and how that's going to work for MTD IT. And then the final point around problems and kind of the solutions to get past them is about keeping up with legislation. Legislation is always and forever changing. There's always tidbits here and there that you learn. Johan said one today about Companies House at the start. And the 3 solutions are really a Venn diagram, and they all kind of cover each other. There's subscribing to HMRC updates. I spend a lot of time looking in their API documentation to see what it actually means in the code. There's attending MTD-related events and joining accounting associations. So even coming to this event, I'm sure there's a lot we've learned around legislation. There's FAB, DAS, Accountex, all these fantastic events. And in the spirit of sharing, we had an event with HMRC yesterday, and we were speaking about MTD, and they told us quite frankly that bridging software is very temporary. It's not going to exist for a long time. So if you consider building bridging software around your entire accounting process, don't expect that to last a long time. So there's a wee update for you legislation-wise. Opportunities. So whilst there's 5 problems and there's ways to get over the problems, here's some opportunities. The real, if you want to ride that wave of innovation, of digitalization, of being cloud first, then here's some opportunities that MTD is going to bring. There's enhanced client relationships, streamlining processes through that digital transformation, increased revenues, improved client data, and future-proofing the practice. And again, I'm going to spend a little time talking about these in detail. So client relationships. MTD for income tax changes the amount that you have to speak to your clients, I guess, if you really want to put it that way, from once a year, and it introduces these quarterly updates of updating HMRC with information. So I think there's an opportunity here, and we've already seen some firms doing this, where they're talking about the quarterly updates as advice opportunities, and alongside that, like building trust through practice support. So that advice opportunities. If the conversation is, well, have you clicked your update button? Yes, I have. Well, what's the value? Here's the value done. I'll see you next quarter. You're probably missing an opportunity to do a little bit more for that business. And we saw this through COVID, that practices, like everyone here, the majority, have moved from accountants and bookkeepers only, or roughly, into business advisors. That was amplified through COVID, and it still exists today. And I think the ability to offer these services around the core MTD compliance can be really strong for the relationships you have with your clients. And that goes into that proactive support point, where something I hear from the free agent and non-free agent practices that I speak to, they got into this industry not to chase clients for receipts, not to categorize bank transactions, but to offer advice. Well, MTD is kind of on a plate giving you 4 extra opportunities where it's a nice reason to speak to a client rather than just you felt like calling them up or you felt like speaking to them. But actually, there's now a legislative touch point there for you. And that kind of covers the third point, I guess, too. Streamlined process through digital transformation. So MTD mandates digital record keeping. I think we know that. And encourages firms to be more modern and vendors to be more modern and cloud-based accounting. So how to win in this situation? Automate, automate, automate. Like if you've ever thought, I wish my bulk payroll could, I wish I could run payroll in bulk across all my clients and automate it. Or I wish when my client snapped a receipt and it was fed into an accounting software, it automatically matched that to a bank transaction. Or I wish bank transaction reconciliation wasn't so manual even when I need to just click around and okay it. Well, the 3 things I mentioned are all things that FreeAgent do today that we automate, and all of our competitors will too. There's a lot of automation in the softwares that we use that we don't use. And if we really want to streamline our processes and nail that admin, then let's use it more. I think FreeAgent's bank categorization is at 65% on day 1 with 95% accuracy and saves, I don't know how many hours of that time. Step 2 is about standardizing processes. And from a lot of the research that we've done with our practices, is that even if you're using a combination of accounting softwares, if you can streamline what you do by making it consistent across all your clients and all your software, it helps with educating your staff, it helps with troubleshooting, and it helps with errors. And it might seem really straightforward, but I do see a lot of practices who have completely different workflows for these really similar clients on different softwares, and it is not the most efficient way of doing things. And lastly is around the collaboration with digital tools. So digital tools offers real-time access or real-time information access to practices. It's not always going to be accurate, and it's not always going to be up to date, but it is available in real time through digitalized solutions and cloud-based solutions. And that is way better than on-prem or desktop or where the industry was a wee while ago. So a difficult one to talk about. I'm in my role, I get energy from working every day from helping small businesses and helping practices do things better. I'm sure the vast majority of people here do the same. But we have to make money, and MTD IT is an opportunity to make money. Offering premium services, I think this is something that I kind of touched on a little bit before, but even for the smallest of clients, from what our kind of research shows into this area is that you can take elements from, say, a standard management reports and offer some of that to the smallest clients, and they're willing to pay small amounts of money for it. I'm delighted to say that FreeAgent is going to be launching our first management reports pack in the near future, and essentially what it's going to allow for those clients that are on FreeAgent, which may be your small ones traditionally, to pull out a really powerful management reports pack for free as practices, and you can give that to your clients. Now, you don't have to charge £300, £400, £500 for that. You can charge a minimal amount, but it's an opportunity for you to make money for the time spent and not be a low-value task for traditionally low-value clients within this MTD IT space. And I kind of touched upon that on part 2, but part 3 is like that, charging for personalized advice and training. When we speak to clients, especially small businesses that don't have practices, and we talk about advisory and try and understand their attitudes towards being upsold stuff, it comes down to the relationship. And if you have a strong relationship and you're offering MTD advice and you're offering loads of advice, they are more likely to pay for advice and training. So the quicker you get on this train and digital train and offering all this stuff, you'll be able to charge for it and be more likely to be accepted from small businesses. Improved client data and insights, probably quite an obvious one, but the mandating of digital record keeping ensures firms have kind of up-to-date data. Again, I said it's not completely accurate all the time, but at least it's up to date. And so the advice that you offer can be more accurate and more timely than probably ever before. This quarterly update and saying you have to keep it digitally and you have to submit something to HMRC, however accurate it turns out to be, is still going to be more up-to-date than probably those shoebox of receipts that you hear about kind of at the end of the year. And analytics-driven insight, I think something that tech is doing and has done for the last couple of years, and there's some fantastic vendors out there that do this, shout out to Xenon Connect, is they really take a lot of the manual hassle out of understanding what the key KPIs are and finding areas to offer advisory. And the tech can collate a lot of that for you, and then you can do what you do best and be the human that offers advice and understands that business position even better to work alongside this analytic-driven insights that's basically served to you if you use some of these providers. And lastly is a really interesting one, especially particularly as we're like developing out our management accounts and speaking to a lot of clients about what suits them best. When thinking about advisory and insights, the vast majority of small businesses we spoke to say that they want their outputs in visual form. They'd rather see a pie chart than a P&L that's just numbers. So have a think about how you present that data to your clients. If you're able to move into this advisory space, if you're doing that, are you doing it in a visually interesting way to them that they really understand? Or are you just printing off a report and giving it to them with a few notes? And the last point I have on the kind of opportunities here is about future-proofing the practice. And MTD, as it says here, is going to be the most modern thing that we really have in accounting software at the moment. It's the latest legislation to make things even more modern, and is kind of mandating that you start to use cloud accounting, or making it really difficult not to in the medium to long term if you want to kind of stick with your spreadsheets. And there's 3 ways to win here. The first is really embracing it as a foundation for your future success. What did you learn from MTD for VAT that you can take into this? What will you learn from this when they mandate some more corporation tax or anything like down the line? If this is the time, this is the time, I would say, to jump into digital-first services if you haven't before. There's so much competition out there, and that is great for practices. There's so many options, so I'd encourage you all to embrace it. The second is about adopting scalable systems. There's still a ton of practices that use our software that don't use bank feeds and still do everything by CSV import to get the data into the accounting software. I wouldn't class that as scalable, and I think soon that's going to become so manual and so obsolete that they'll be behind. And I think a lot of the tech and all the vendors you hear today are really looking at how they can scale their services. From a FreeAgent perspective, we're doing a ton of this, and our strategy has pivoted, and you'll see a lot if you stay kind of close to the market and what we're doing. We're going to be releasing our management reports. We're also going to be releasing our kind of tracking categories to support those clients to scale, and then a kind of find and fix / kind of find and recode style in FreeAgent 2, so that you can take a client and scale them all the way up to kind of enterprise level. And the last is attracting tech-savvy clients. I think the young, new generation of business owner in a lot of markets is digital first. It's probably mobile first. And having a practice and a messaging around a practice that is digital first, and you have these tools and set up in place, is very attractive to that new type of client. So I'm going to leave you with an element of all this that I'm very passionate about, and that is choosing the right tools. And in the MTD for IT space, one partnership that I think is incredibly powerful, and I would because I work for one half of them, is the FreeAgent and Mettle partnership. Now, if you don't know about Mettle, Mettle are NatWest's challenger bank. And why the partnership is so impactful is if you join Mettle for small business customers only, you get it for free, and you get FreeAgent completely free provisioned in the background. There's nothing that's reduced from that FreeAgent package. You don't have to pay for your payroll or your invoicing or all that kind of stuff. It's all bells and whistles. But that's great from a commercial perspective and great from a marketing perspective. But the real power is in the functionality. So what this allows is if you do your bank reconciliation in Mettle, it syncs it into FreeAgent. Or you as a practice or your client can do it in FreeAgent and it syncs it back into Mettle, including the receipts. So basically bringing your accounting into your banking so the client doesn't need to leave. Now that's one part. But then it gets really exciting. Within FreeAgent, we have the concept of a tax timeline. And a tax timeline is all your tax amounts and all your tax values. And that's now in Mettle too. So your clients, they get this free bank account and free accounting software that's all the bells and whistles, can go in, categorize their transactions or see them if you've categorized them, and also get a full breakdown of all their tax amounts and when it's due right there. They also have like the concept of pots or spaces or vaults if you're familiar with other challenger banks, and you can kind of put 20% aside. Well, what we're going to be doing in the near future is we're going to be automating what your MTD IT amounts are and then putting that in a pot for you automatically. So you don't even need to think about saving for tax. And genuinely, as a small business owner, if you could have told me that if you know my bank amounts and then you can automate amounts to put to the side so I cover my taxes, that would have changed my life. So that's me. I've chatted through a few of the opportunities that this is going to bring, a few of the problems and solutions, and I genuinely believe it is going to transform our industry, especially with our small business clients, into being more digital first and more cloud first. And I hope that we can embrace it together. Cheers.